This whole thing, with me constantly trying to keep everyone updated on this church called Remnant Fellowship, is slightly becoming less of what I'm looking to continue working on. As far as sharing, or as far as just constantly social media posting for you all, or things of that nature. Like spending so much time trying to make sure people on my page are seeing every little thing RF is up to doing. Don't worry though, if anything major happens, and I'm sure there will be things happening, I'll definitely keep posting out to all the Michael S. Black social media. And of course, I myself certainly, absolutely, am still invested and completely wanting and will keep up myself with what these people are doing. But this is just kind of a switch of operating procedure or priority. It's like I'm feeling need to start pivoting towards these media people or podcasters or anyone out there who's been reaching out to me. Feeling like these other platforms are what I should start to be focusing in on at this next stage, as well as keeping up with major events at Remnant. There is much to do in my estimation, as these people have clearly been trying to take the worship of Gwen, and now also the mindless worship of Elizabeth, as well as other Remnant saints outside the walls of this church in Brentwood. There's nothing that could stop these delusional, false Christian Gwen zealots, at least within their own beliefs or minds, as I simply cannot give enough evidence or say words or things that would sway someone who's 100% desperately wanting to cling to these person-worshipping beliefs. So I only feel like continuing this path of countering, but maybe now on a larger, or at least multiple platform scale, is possibly the best way to go about this, in my opinion, major problem. As we have all by now seen, at least those of you who haven't been blinded with these wicked witches' blinding spell, there is a consistent and wickedly constant changing or rewriting of history that goes on a near daily basis at this not so flashy anymore Brentwood haunting cult. All the more reason for me to keep up the pressure, as we are desperately trying to prevent this false idol worshiping to make its way out and spread to these many hundreds of small groups and text threads or worship groups that I'm increasingly becoming aware of. Like these are, in a way, like many remnant churches that have maybe found their way out of the building itself and have been removed from membership perhaps, but they still mentally and physically cling to the old worship of earlier Gwen Shamblin, or hang on to these false notions like the 7 who died in the plane crash are now heavenly rock stars or martyrs, or things like the spirit of Gwen is still worshiping with us as we speak and sing in the sanctuary. I've even heard these people now believe that a hawk that started hanging around and sitting on the roof of the Remnant sanctuary around the time after the plane crash is the spirit of Joe Lara. That is a real thing. Many of the younger people in Remnant have believed and said, as well as adults, which has gotten back to me. I guess making the leap that he was a pilot and into falconry and Gwen's security guard. Like he's flying around the building, still protecting the remnant. There are people who've been saying wrongful things, like Gwen is still with this church, as they recount similar God signs that Remnant very often uses to show themselves, as well as others, they're still on the right path. Like praying for Gwen's spirit, or loving ways to be inside of themselves, and then immediately seeing a bright red cardinal outside, or a rainbow appearing while a group of them are reading her books. These are the beginnings of mythological-like status, or legends, and don't think that it couldn't get worse. Don't think that this worship of a person couldn't happen or develop even further, as I'm actually seeing these things happen in real time. And worryingly, don't forget that the massive number of young kids and youth within Remnant are listening and seeing these things too, and watching these deceptive adults get up and speak from stage and testify. And these next generations could very likely be the ones who take this whole worship of Gwen Shamblin Laura to another completely anti-Christian level, even though it's already worse than you think. You need to understand this once filled with people's sanctuary, without some kind of balancing or correction, would very possibly one day, long from now, turn into a temple of worshiping the memory of Gwen Shamblin Laura, or like some form of mausoleum or memorial grand tomb, which people enter to watch replays of a long dead, supposedly perfect Christian woman. Yet they will be praying to her like they pray to God, or Catholics pray to Mary or saints. A building with no longer live services or assemblies, but resembling something closer to a woman-led shrine. This cannot be what happens, as I will take every effort possible to prevent these people from falsely rewriting history and proclaiming they are all absolutely innocent of wrongdoing, as well as make certain people know that these pieces of trash-talking remnant leaders who died are not the saints or innocent martyrs they're made out to be, or people to be prayed to or worshipped either. This goes for Joseph Smith too. There will not be a huge golden statue of Gwen that's put in the place where Jesus should be. Nor will these other so-called people who were die-hard, mindless, falling down at Gwen's or Elizabeth's feet leaders or women be remembered like something out of the Bible. This myth should not be remembered like some perfectly well-phrased love story with them all ending in heaven rejoicing. The worst thing to ever happen to Christianity, as far as within the last 3 to 4 decades, is this wanting herself worshipped woman who gave the millions of way-down women who completely gave up everything, despising their husbands or anyone to follow her, a license to bypass all authority and become worshipped themselves. You have seen much of the results, and so now this is hopefully more clear for those who've been wondering. Until, if there's ever need for a quick video like this again, keep it real.